All right, guys, in beautiful Tabiona, Utah, at Skyrider Ranch. This is where we do Gunfighter Weekend. We're about to do hunter prep. We have an upcoming course for our first motorcycle experience. Tabiona, Utah. I don't think it can get prettier than that. All right, let's talk about the bike. So U.S. Marine Corps, made by Hayes Diversified Technologies, HDT. Now, it's based obviously off of a KLR. If you ride motorcycles, you are pretty familiar with the KLR. JP8 and diesel only. Now, supposedly this thing can run off of kerosene, off of biodiesel, off of motor oil filtered. Basically everything. Also, one of the requirements is this needed to get 400 miles of range. Now, this is a 6-gallon tank. You see the fuel line here. This fuel's probably been in here for years. A 6-gallon tank can get 600 miles. That's right. This thing gets 100 miles per gallon. 100 miles per gallon. Even your most efficient bikes get around 50 miles per gallon. This gets double that in range. I could drive to Las Vegas and nearly back from here with one tank of fuel. This particular bike has 1,264 miles. Now, I did a really cool video for the Philcraft Survival channel with Greg Lappin where we did a few tests comparing this to a modern motorcycle. Make sure you guys hit that link down below and subscribe to the channel. This particular bike I got from a guy in Salt Lake City who was buying a whole bunch of surplus stuff. He bought this from a sheriff's department in Texas. In fact, that's how most of them you're able to get titled and plated, because whether they were bought or they were donated by the military, these departments policed them up, and then they got them, they titled them, they registered them to the department, and then they were eventually sold off because the departments didn't use them. There is some wear, but for a bike that was made in 2009, it looks really good. These panniers are likely aftermarket from a KLR. It comes with this pretty sturdy rear end, but it also has this cool little toolbox that's part of it. This seat is a good indication in the condition that it hasn't been used a lot. Supposedly this bike is also EMP proof. Now, I don't know if that's true, but if you guys know, leave it down in the comments below. Like, I've seen the battery, there's not many electronics on the bike at all. But if you know exactly how it is spec'd, because I know a lot of the engineers like to comment on these videos, which I think is rad, that you get some subject matter experts communicating about why they did certain things on this bike. Make sure you leave that in the comments. Also, this bike needed to be capable of driving blacked out. So it has blackout, off, and lights. I mean, that's pretty easy. That's marine proof. This is the IR light right here. So you can drive under nods. And it's simple, stupid. I mean, coolant only. JB8 diesel only. Use only DOT 5 silicone brake fluid to mill, and then it has the spec. On, off. All the basic things that you would see in the Army on an Army vehicle that you do maintenance on, this thing has. Has some cool little features that I thought were interesting. Has disc brakes front and rear. This bike, I think dry is 390 pounds. Wet with 6 pounds per gallon, you're looking at an additional 25 plus pounds. And even a skid plate. I don't think that's aftermarket. I think that's part of the contract. It's not easy to ride. I mean, it's comfortable to ride. Surprisingly comfortable. More likely because the rear shock is blown out. But it looks like it's in good condition. But, like, for example, where the heel and the toe are to be able to shift this, I imagine it's made for the modern Marine and his little boots. Or they just didn't have enough space between the case and this to make this a little wider. And that might be the distance on a KLR. I've never driven a KLR. But this is really tight. My 13 size boot could barely fit into this, so I had to kind of scoot it underneath. And maybe that's a KLR thing. You KLR riders might know that. We typically had little 125s, smaller bikes that were used for airfield seizures that we used, but nothing this big. I could see why you would need this bike for a Marine Expeditionary Unit, because a Mew parked off the coast, might need to get your Force Recon, your MARSOC guys out ahead of the big unit in order to do reconnaissance, which makes sense to me. Supposedly, this bike was designed, oh, look at that. Oh, that's the IR. So it's got IR in the rear as well. That's really cool. Just noticed that. I don't know why that tape's there. Little features I'm starting to notice all over the place. This thing has Dunlop D606s. Now, I don't know if these came stock on this particular bike, but these are really good tires. I mean, I run these tires on my KTM and super impressed with these tires. Now, doing the test with Greg yesterday, had zero issues doing that test. Got the bike up to 70 miles an hour. Supposedly it has a top speed. Some people have advertised 100 miles an hour. Some people have advertised up to 85 miles an hour. As soon as I hit to 70, it was really difficult to get anything faster than that. So I can't see it going 100, but I think 85 is doable. So back to the exhaust. So supposedly this exhaust is supposed to baffle sound. And we did some sound tests for that YouTube video on Philcraft's channel. And man, this thing is really quiet comparatively, especially in low idle. You heard the cold start. That thing is like a tractor. It's just bop, 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 bop. You like that? Bop, bop. It says installation of this exhaust system on models not specified may violate federal noise limit. 80 dBA. Huh. Interesting. I don't know what that means. Out of all the bikes I have, the GS 1300, the KTM 500, some really cool bikes. This is one of my favorite bikes. I would say this is my favorite bike. Now it only has 1,264 miles. I put like 30 miles on it for the show. I'm going to drive it because if you don't drive these things, they go bad. They need to be driven. And I don't believe in having things that you're not going to use. Like, I'm not going to sit here and look at it. I'm going to drive it. Now, what I will say about this bike is it's super torquey. Supposedly this thing only has 30 horsepower. And that's not a lot of horsepower. But with the torque, it kind of makes up for it. Especially in like climbing, any kind of incline, at low RPMs. That torque makes up for it. It's really torquey. I haven't found the numbers yet on the specs for that. I think we should take it on one more ride. Let's take it on one more little ride.